Awesome. Good thing I'm recording though, so we got that. All right, now we're streaming. Thanks, Buddha. And then we have Colfax, who's part of our ETHStaker crew, and he'll be later presenting his Oneclick installer.
Hey guys.
And Remy Roy, who is also going to be presenting today his Validator Wizard.
Hi there.
Awesome. One quick thing to note before we dive into the fun and technicals of the workshop is the Validator Workshop was initially advertised as a sort of step-by-step process from going from a bare metal server into a functional validator. We've since modified the scope of what these workshops are going to be. We're not going to do a step-by-step tutorial. Instead, what we've done is made step-by-step video tutorials for every client, so Teku, Nimbus, Lighthouse, and Prism, based on Somera ESET's guides. Those are hosted currently on the ETHStaker website, ethstaker.cc/Validator Workshop. You can find those by going to the main website and clicking under Initiatives. You'll find a link there that says Validator Workshop. You'll find all of the guides there, along with just a general overview of the Validator Workshop series. So what are we then going to do today? Which is a great question. And effectively what we're going to do is assume that you're already up and running as a solo staker and showcase aspects of maintaining and supporting your existing validator. Things like updating your existing validator, maybe importing or adding keys to an existing validator, recovering your seed phrase, and then we're going to go over various aspects of tooling to make solo staking easier for those who may not be up and running, and that is where some of the showcases are going to come into play with Colfax and Remy. We're also going to display or showcase rather the full spectrum of solo staking. So the step-by-step guides that are hosted on the website are meant to get you up and running. We're then going to focus on simple tooling to make it easier for those who are motivated to solo stake but maybe a little too intimidated to get into the weeds of the command line. And then we're going to showcase some staking pool services that the ETHStaker community is, I don't want to say advocating for, but maybe endorsing as sort of the best in terms of the health of the beacon chain. So that is what the Validator Workshop is, and what we're going to accomplish today. So I think without further ado, we can probably dive right into it. Anything standing out in the comments before we move forward? All right.
Someone is asking how to join the Zoom call because he is on YouTube. We can't share the link on the YouTube chat because it will get censored. But if you join the Discord server, I can link it. You will find the link there.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good call out. For those who are looking to join, if you want to go ahead and if you aren't already part of the ETHStaker Discord, it's invite.gg/ETHStaker. And you can reach out to one of the moderators or anyone that you see on the Zoom chat here, and we'll link you up with a direct link to join. Okay, so one of the things I want to talk about, and we can, I'll switch my screens here in a second, is for current solo stakers preparing for the Berlin hard fork. And just briefly, I'll sort of pose this to the group, and whoever wants to take it can. But what is it we're doing here? Like, why would I have to prepare for it? And what happens if I don't prepare for it? Are there any negative repercussions? Wonder if Nolan or Superfizz want to jump in there.
I was totally broadcasting the link, so
it's okay. I just put you on the spot.
One more time.
Yeah.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
So what I want to do is jump in first on how to update my node in preparing for the Berlin hard fork. So
okay. Yeah,
what is it I'm preparing for, and are there any negative repercussions if I don't?
Cool. And Nolan, I hope you will correct me, because I'm much more of like high level, get it done, and Nolan is much more of like, this is how it actually works. So most people, we generally encourage people to run Ubuntu Linux for their validator, and it is so simple to update Geth there. In fact, to just do a full system update, which you should do at least once a month, it's very easy. Am I just gonna say it, or are we gonna share it?
I can share it, yeah.
I mean, anybody that can screen share can do an update right now, and it will not hurt anything.
Let me go ahead and do that.
So when you get to your command line to do an update and upgrade to Ubuntu, you're just going to do sudo apt. We got to do with this screen share. It's
yeah, I didn't think of that. So I'm sharing it via the stream.
I have a lab station tab open. Hold on.
Yeah.
All right. Share screen. Okay. So you should see my lab station, and I'm not even going to mess with the font. You may or may not be able to see the font well. But to update, you just do sudo apt get update, and this is going to update all of the packages in your repository. I can't do it when I'm on camera. And so I've updated from the package sources all of the package files, and now to update them, I just do sudo apt get dist upgrade -y. And so what this command is, it's saying, as super user, I want to use the aptitude package manager to go and get a distribution upgrade. So if there are any packages that need to be updated, please pull them down. And the -y means yes. That means you don't have to ask me if I want to do it. I definitely know that I want to do this. Sorry, I use tab completion usually. And so what you can see here is these are the packages that are being updated on my desktop. If you are updating Geth, it will actually show you Geth here. To be fair, I'm not really running Geth on this lab station because it's too heavy. But if this were a staking node, when you run these two commands, sudo apt-get update and sudo apt-get dist upgrade, it will upgrade your Geth to the latest version. When you do Geth version check, we're looking for, I do have Geth. Let's see. So Geth version. We're looking for this to be at least version 1.9. So notably, this is not updated to 1.10. In my case, I know why that is. I actually removed the Geth PPA, the Geth package archive. But when you update and then you type Geth version, it should tell you Geth 1.10 and some other number. If you don't see that, then it's great to go to the forums or go to the Discord and say, hey, my Geth isn't updated. How do I do that?
Awesome. Very cool. And if I don't do that as a solo staker, am I in trouble? Am I going to get slashed? Am I going to what's going to happen?
That's a great question. So everyone worries about slashing. Slashing for pretty much any user only happens when you run your validator keys in two places. So you can do a whole lot of things wrong without ever being slashed. You're going to be slashed if you set up two machines, run your keys in two places. That's bad. What's going to happen in this case is you will not follow that. This is a hard fork, which means when the hard fork happens in April, your chain, your Geth instance will actually begin following a different chain. The losses are actually not going to be significant, but the reason we need everyone to do this is to maintain good practice, because these upgrades are going to more frequent in the next few months, and we need to keep everyone kind of in lockstep as we go.
Very good. Okay, cool. So in fact, let me, so for the people that are watching the live stream, I'm sharing a virtual machine right now running my Geth node, and we can see exactly what Superfizz is talking about. So in the bottom half of the screen, doing a Geth version, we can see mine is doing 1.10.1 in contrast to what Fizz was talking about with his 1.9 version. Okay. So just to summarize, you will not, it's not like you'll be slashed or penalized necessarily by not updating. And to update, really all you're doing is sudo apt-get update for your system, and then sudo apt-get dist upgrade for the actual Geth upgrade. Next, what I want to go through is, let me spin up the other machine here. I think it'll be great to kind of walk through the deposit CLI a little bit more and establish recovering a set of keys and then adding additional keys to a existing validator. Those are a couple questions that were asked during the sign up. So let me go ahead and open this up.
I want to pop in real quick. Duststuff has a great question about what I have to do switching from testnet to mainnet. Do I need to be careful about generating keys offline? There are a few caveats here. Number one, it is a very poor practice to use the same keys that you use for testnet that you use for mainnet. With that said, it's not a good practice, but it's not illegal. It's not going to break anything. It should work. I would not recommend doing it. And as far as key generating, you should take as many precautions as you're able to take to generate your validator keys securely. At a minimum, well, so actually minimum precautions are already taken. They're generated on your local machine because you have to download that deposit CLI tool to generate keys. To increase the security of that, it might be great to make sure you're not connected to the internet when you do that. To increase your security even further, you might use what people call an air-gapped machine, which would be like maybe a laptop with no internet connection that you bring the deposit CLI tool over with a USB drive and carry it back, where that way your seed phrase never sees a machine connected to the network. There's a wide range of security practices. And so I would always encourage you to be as secure as you can be, but don't feel like you're doing something wrong if you're not secured like Fort Knox. This system is designed to be secure. Key generation is designed to be secure. What we want users to do is kind of just maintain that high standard the best they can with a realization that nothing is perfect.
Okay.
And yes, an air-gapped Raspberry Pi. Well, so Raspberry Pi uses the ARM64 architecture. I do not know if the deposit CLI is available for that, but you can build it from source. It is available on the Launchpad, so if there's not a binary available, you can definitely build it from source for the Raspberry Pi.
I just checked. There's one binary for ARM.
All right, so for those watching the stream, we're logged into a Lighthouse-based validator. And what I'm going to do is all of the directory structure and how everything is installed is based on Somaire's Lighthouse guide. So if you're curious as to where I'm navigating and why I'm getting there so quickly, that's what I'm basing everything out of. So you can follow along using that. So what we're going to do is, to oversimplify this, we're going to first recover an existing mnemonic phrase, and that's using the deposit CLI tool, which is a separate component from the validator. It's a piece of software that was downloaded during the installation, again, using Samir's guides. So what we're going to do here is, I'm just in the home directory, and I'm going to do a list. We can see that I have the deposit CLI program here. I'm just going to change directories into that, that directory. And then what I'm going to do is run the following command. So I'll clear my screen, and we're just going to do /deposit. And then instead of new mnemonic, which I believe is the command for generating a new set of keys, we're just going to go existing mnemonic.
So Michael, someone brought up an interesting point. If they're viewing on Zoom, we're not able to see the
Yep, that's
the
a really
screen
good
share.
call. Yep. Okay, let me see if I can simultaneously share here.
And so while he's working on this, let me shout out to Michael and Vedika. He is keeping 6 things straight in his head between OBS streaming to YouTube and keeping the Zoom running. So he's doing an absolutely fantastic job, especially amusing that I'm seeing a different view of him on Zoom and in YouTube, which is kind of neat.
So just to
So thank you for setting this up. It's very impressive.
No problem. Absolutely. So I think I need to. Oh, right. Okay. So just to recap here, I'm going to clear my screen. I'm going to do a PWD, which just allows me to view what current directory I'm in right now. So we can verify that I'm in the home directory and under the deposit CLI. And I am going to do /deposit, then space existing mnemonic, and I believe I've actually got to specify the amount, right? The number of validators that I want to do for this command. Let's find out. I'm going to do num underscore validators.
It'll be number of validators in the starting index as well.
Perfect. Okay. Do I need to recover this explicitly state the chain, or can I just run it like this? So
I think it will prompt you for the chain if you don't.
Okay. So what I'll do, I'll just run it anyway. So I'll do -- chain. This is specified for those unfamiliar with this. This should jog your memory a little bit if you are mainnet or testnet validators, solo stakers. Because what we're doing here is, for this example, I'm going to use the Pyrmont testnet. But if this is production or mainnet, I would simply just flip out Pyrmont for mainnet.
I want to point out, while we're doing a lot of technical commands now, I know that there are many people who are going to be like, oh my God, I can never do these things. But you can relax, because what we're showing are some of the more difficult things first, because we feel like it's good for everyone to be exposed to those. And then as we move on throughout our hour, we'll be showing off some things that are much easier to use, that are more click easy.
Yes. In fact,
Michael, are you adding a validator to an existing wallet in this example?
No, this is just to kind of recover, and then I figured the next step we would add to, yeah. But I think we might move on to that, adding to an existing validator, because I'm realizing when I restarted my virtual machine here, and I never saved my seed phrase. So I won't be able to actually recover this. In fact, this is actually a really good real-world example for different reasons. So what's happening here is the command processed successfully using the deposit CLI. And what's happening here is it's requesting the seed phrase, which was first generated when you set up your initial validator. And the reason that seed phrase is so important, this is a perfect showcase of that, is it's your only key or gateway to use tools like this to recover. If you don't have it, I mean, that's it. There's no like calling up ethereum.org and having them recover things. It just doesn't exist. You know, there's really no support outside of that. You are, to put this in a crass way, sort of the single point of failure in terms of your validator. So if you don't properly manage your seed phrase, or don't copy it down or lose it, unfortunately, there's nothing I or the rest of the ETHStaker team can really do to help you out. So it's imperative that you do as many things as you can to make sure that your seed phrase is in a safe and a secure location, and that you don't delete it, because there's no going back. So we won't be able to, unfortunately, I won't be able to showcase.
And that means if you keep your key securely at home, you should also keep it securely somewhere else, because if your house burns down, you do not want to have the additional loss of your keys gone. What I know from having dealt with keys like this for a long time now is that the loss, or the likelihood of losing, is actually greater than the likelihood of theft. So if you're doing everything in the world to prevent it from being stolen, that's great. But the higher likelihood is actually that you'll do something silly and lose it. And that is almost worse, because then you just stole it from yourself.
Right. So let's actually move on to the next step here, which is what Samara was asking about. So let's, using the deposit CLI, we're going to generate, this is under the assumption that you're already running a validator. We're going to generate a new set of keys and then upload those to an existing validator. So say, for example, you made your initial 32 ETH deposit, you made some great DeFi moves, and now you've got some extra ETH to burn, and you want to spin up some more validators. This is a perfect use case for that. So let's go ahead and, in fact, let me pop open Samara's guide here. Now, as I'm stalling here, basically what we're doing from a logical overview is we are first generating the keys. It's a fairly simple process, actually, where we're going to generate a new set of keys. We're then going to import those keys, just like we did setting up the initial validator, and that's it. Well, and then make the deposit into the using the launchpad. But I mean, that there's nothing more to do outside of that. So let's go ahead and get into it. So what I'm going to do is, much like the previous command, we'll do deposit. And then instead of existing mnemonic, we'll go new mnemonic. We'll specify the number of validators we want to run. Let's just do 3 for fun. And I'm going to add our language and then the chain. Now, if I didn't specify the language or the chain, I believe the wizard asks you anyway. So I'm just kind of going past those steps. All right, so next we're going to generate a password. This does not necessarily have to be the same password that you used in creating your initial set of keys. I would argue, though, that you may want to use the same one just for sake of use, for ease of use. Here we have our coveted seed phrase. Obviously, this is demonstration purposes only. I would never actively give this out. Anyone that has this seed phrase effectively has control of your validator, of your ETH. So let's go ahead and copy that down into a safe location. It's going to ask us to confirm. We did confirm successfully. Now we're generating our 3 additional keys.
Can we point out that what you did was just a copy paste there? Many people will type that in by hand, but you did it super fast. So
yes, great point. So So this is our,
Also, write it down.
yes.
In fact, maybe write it down and then read it from there. So then you know that what you wrote down was correct when you're typing it, yeah.
And I won't even make a
Oh.
deposit until that key is off-site. Because my luck would be that my house would start burning down as soon as I sent the deposit, and I was going to, stash my key next week.
And also, preferably you don't put it into something that has autocorrect. I heard of someone who did that and ended up with a non-existing mnemonic, which is not that terrible because at the end of the day, you type it in once more, and then you see whether it is an illegal mnemonic. But if you copy paste, then you're screwed.
All very good points. All right, so we have our new keys. I'm going to just do a cd space tilde, which is going to bring me to the home directory. And then for the most part, the only thing that may change here slightly is the command that we generate, but this is going to be specific to Lighthouse. So I'm going to change directories into the Lighthouse directory. And then all I'm going to do is import those new keys. So I'm going to go Lighthouse. We're going to specify our network. Now we need to specify the directory in which those keys exist.
Small typo on account.
Sorry?
It's just a small typo on the word account.
Oh, thank you. Now, one question I did have is, I'm just going to put the raw directory here, but this has the intelligence because all four so we have the 3 keys that we just generated in the original key. This has the intelligence to discern which one's new and which one's not, or it just re-imports everything that's in that directory.
It can detect which keys have already been uploaded, and it will output a message saying that is the case for those specific keys, and it'll import the new ones.
All right, let's go ahead and hit enter.
Also, in real life, you shouldn't or should consider not generating the keys on the validator machine itself, because that machine will be exposed to the internet, and you preferably want to generate the keys on not the same machine, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So you would need to transfer over the validator keys to your machine via USB thumb drive or via SSH, or by any means.
Now, in that same vein, Phil, you would recommend, because we're doing that for security reasons, generating the keys on a separate computer that we're running the validator on, we also wouldn't want to email those to ourselves either, or
Sure, exactly. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Okay, so going back to the deposit CLI, it's asking for the password that we had generated. So let's go ahead and put that in. It is correct.
I just saw that. Oh, it didn't show you your password. A lot of people who are kind of new to this would be looking for that. And there's this thing called no echo, where you can enter a password or you can enter a seed phrase, and it's not going to, this machine will not show you what's happening. That panics a lot of people. But if you just follow through, it will actually pick up what you're putting down.
Yeah, that's a great call out. All right, so we input that. Oops. There we go. All right, so all of our keys have been successfully imported, which is great. So now what we're going to do is, I'll pose it to the group. I don't know if there's necessarily any value in going through the actual deposit portion of this. I think it's more just, at that point, that's all you have to do that's left is make the deposit for the additional 3 keys. I think we're all pretty much aware of that. But you would go to, in this case, since we're on the Piermont network, you go to piermont.launchpad.ethereum.org. And once that deposit has processed through, that's it. You've got now 4 keys running on your machine. So that's how you would add additional keys to your validator. Okay, any questions from the group or from the chats at all before we move on to the next one?
Nope.
Awesome. So now what I want to do is, I think this is a great transition. So the first Validator workshop that we hosted was something like, with 3.5 hours, we went from bare metal server or a new machine and spun it up on a test net. The videos that I followed using Samara's guide, it was just a quick and dirty, like get you up and running. Those unedited, I think, were maybe 45 minutes. We want to make those things simpler for newcomers into the scene, and we want to make them quicker. And that is exactly what Colfax and Remy have been working on in terms of tooling for making and lowering the bar to enter into the solo staking scene. And it's something incredible what the two of them together have produced. And it's honestly, I'm convinced it's one of the reasons why their Gitcoin grant was so successful this round, and why the reception for the product itself has been welcomed, because it drastically simplifies the process and makes it easier for non-technical users, or maybe someone that just really isn't comfortable or willing to work with the command line. So what I'd like to do first, Colfax, if you want to share your screen and kind of showcase exactly what you've been working on and walk us through the whole thing.
Sounds good. I'll pull it up right now. Thanks for the intro. Let's see here. Good to go?
Yep, looks great.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, as Michael said, we heard a call out from the ETHStaker community, actually from Superfizz in one of the community calls, to basically build a one-click installer for setting up everything that Michael's creating guides for, that Somer's guides helped you do, for going from nothing to Ethereum to staking. And we have built now a couple different applications that can help automate a lot of that process. So this one's called Stakehouse, and we just released it open source a couple weeks ago. Definitely very much in the early beta stages, but I'll walk you through sort of how it works. Here on the welcome screen, you can sort of see it tells you what it's going to be setting up for you. So this is going to be your ETH1 node, your ETH2 beacon node, and your validator. And under the hood, a big shout out to Rocket Pool. So we actually use Rocket Pool's install infrastructure for this. That's one of the reasons why we were able to build it so quickly. And so it's pretty amazing. I think we might talk about the Rocket Pool staking infrastructure a little bit later, but for now, I'll just jump right in. So first what we do is we run a couple system checks. This is pretty bare bones right now. As I mentioned, still in like the early beta stage for this one-click installer. We want to add more system tests here to check, for example, like, is your hardware performant enough to actually run a node successfully, a few other things. And here under advanced, we're going to support picking more individualized features, but for now it's meant to be very simple install. We'll pick a random ETH1 and ETH2 client for you to run. So that promotes client diversity and healthy networks. So without further ado, I will click install. So I need to type in my password here. And right now, as you can see, it prints out a few log messages of what's going on behind the scenes. And it's actually doing the install for you right now. So everything that you see in Michael's video is happening automatically behind the scenes. And depending on how quick your internet is, I've seen it take as little as 30 seconds up to, I mean, it could take longer. I mean, I think the max I've ever seen it take is like 4 or 5 minutes, mostly downloading stuff here. But as you can see, just like that, install complete, redirecting. And now we have everything up and running. There's a lot of work still to be done here. I'll go through a couple things on this screen. This is basically telling you, so the randomly picked client was Teku. And for ETH2, ETH1 is Geth. You can see you're all online here. This status here for Geth right now is probably going to change to syncing soon once you connect to some more peers and start pulling in the historical data. These statuses, right now it says your validators are online. One of the objectives is to actually have a little bit more granularity in that. So telling how many validators you have. Right now, we don't have any validators set up, but the validator application is running. Here are some good resources for you to take a look at. And that's basically the entire install process. It all happened behind the scenes, and now you're up and running.
Hey, Colfax, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, what's up?
What systems are supported? YouTube is asking a lot about Windows. What's it built on?
Right now, it is only built for Ubuntu, but we are hoping to launch more operating systems in the future. If you have any experience with porting applications and building them on different platforms, I would love for you to come join. Here, let me bring up the GitHub repo.
And I hope while you're working on that, I want to say a little bit about Stakehouse. So, you know, we're building the ETHStaker community. We recognized a need for these tools. I put the call out. Colfax actually brought a team together. He's working with Remy and some other people to develop these tools, and it's incredible. So Stakehouse is actually the first tool. Can I tell you what can I talk about the bigger plan?
Ship it.
The bigger plan, while Stakehouse was the name of that installer, we actually want to zoom out and make Stakehouse an umbrella department of ETHStaker so that Colfax will organize developers to build tools that support the staking ecosystem, whether that means helping an existing tool incorporate more clients, or whether it means providing like things like the single click installer, or maybe one-off tools that just help validators do better. We're looking for the future of Stakehouse to be a building wing of ETHStaker. And I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we have the right team and the skill for that. And really, if you have any interest, we've even talked about, you don't have to be a developer. If you're willing to learn and write documentation, we want you to feel as welcome in Stakehouse as we hope you feel in ETHStaker. And so I hope I didn't steal too much from you.
No, I was in fact just about to jump into that. So Stakehouse now is becoming much more than just this tool. And as you'll see next, Remy's going to demo a tool that he's also built that is also aimed at lowering the technical bar to staking. And so I'm really excited about that. And that sort of opened my eyes up to the fact that the community doesn't only need a one-click installer. There are many tools that can be built to help lower the technical bar to Ethereum 2 staking, as well as promote the health of the beacon chain and do a lot of different things. So we're trying to sort of build this community to facilitate a lot of that development. And so a few updates. We just decided to launch the community, so we're going to be updating a lot of stuff. We're probably going to be creating a GitHub org for Stakehouse where we can host a lot of these tools. This is the repo for Stakehouse, the one-click installer, which we're going to be renaming. And as you can see here, there's a lot of like to-dos here that I've identified for some additional enhancements for this project. And we're also going to be having many other projects that we're going to be spinning up within this umbrella. And to get back to Stakehouse, the one-click installer quickly, I see some questions about validators and things like that. right now, we do not officially support going through the deposit process, but I'll show you here. So once you're fully synced, you can click deposit here. And what we're going to do in order to actually get your validators up and running is we want to utilize the Launchpad, the Ethereum Launchpad, which was very well put together and very thoughtfully put together to actually deposit your ETH. And you'll go through a similar process of creating your mnemonic and your keys, like Invetica was alluding to, which he was playing with the CLI earlier. And then you can actually import that key store into the Stakehouse one-click installer application. And then you can start running your validator with those keys. But this is not fully built out yet. So this is one of the features that hopefully we'll be able to build out once we have a few more people involved.
The thing people always want to know about this and about this kind of tool, and I know it can be frustrating from the development perspective, but what's the time frame that users can expect to be able to use something like this? Like, let's say, you know, I'm sitting on some Ether and I want to stake, but this looks like the right way for me. How long do I have to wait to use this?
That's a great question. And it's a little hard to answer because it really is not a binary scale. It's kind of like a sliding scale of how mature the technology is and how ready we are to recommend its use, like on mainnet. So right now, explicitly, it's only supported for the testnet. And that's not because it's too difficult to configure for mainnet. It's because this is definitely an early stage tool, and I don't want people to put their real Ether in the tool because we're still working out how to make everything super secure. Eventually, once we build a few more features, we want to get an official audit done to make sure that we have a third party sign off on how the tool works. And then we will release it for more like mainnet use and encourage you to do that. In terms of a timeline, I mean, just ballpark, days, weeks, months, years, I'd say months, probably not weeks, but not years. So I hope that kind of answers your question, Superfizz.
Yeah, that's great. I just know how difficult waiting is, especially when you're trying to be patient.
Yep.
So just at least having a window is very helpful.
Yep. And all this will happen much quicker if more developers jump on and help out. So that's maybe an incentive. If you want to use the tool and you have some skills that can help out, even if you're non-technical, there's plenty of product related things and other things to do. If you're interested in working on this tool, reach out to me on Discord. And I'm sure we'll post a link to the GitHub somewhere. And you can come and join the team and help out. It's all totally open source. Stakehouse, the one-click installer, no fees, just totally a community-driven tool to help the community.
For anyone who's familiar with a Mythical Man Month, Colfax kind of suggested, you know, if we have more help, we can get this done more quickly. If he has more help, he can work on more projects and spread out the effort more widely. So we really, I'm going to be promoting Stakehouse a lot in the next few months because I know that it's one of the most powerful directions for ETHStaker, and that was really solidified by this Gitcoin grant where everyone that could gave to Stakehouse. So we've kind of heard that, and we want to embrace it.
Yep. And so for that Stakehouse community umbrella that we're talking about, we just launched the Discord channel for it. It's going to be on the ETHStaker Discord. If you're not a part of the ETHStaker Discord, run over to the URL invite.gg/ETHStaker, and you'll see one of the channels is called Stakehouse, and just keep an eye out there for more updates on how to get more involved.
And I'd like to make one last shout out. The Stakehouse installer supports all 4 staking clients because it's based on the Rocket Pool installer that supports all 4 staking clients. And the Rocket Pool installer supports all 4 staking clients because our friend JCRTP heard one of my previous kind of like, hey, we need Rocket Pool to support all 4 clients. And he's like, hey, I can do that. So JCRTP spent a couple of weeks hammering away, getting pull requests submitted and approved. And because of his work, because of the ETHStaker community, Rocket Pool now supports all 4 clients, which allowed Stakehouse to easily support all 4 clients. That's a major win. because we are promoting client diversity rather than allowing the community to kind of collapse down on one or two popular clients, which would not be in our best interest.
So that's actually,
And a few other things that, or go ahead, Michael.
I was just going to kind of extend on what Fizz was saying there. And he'd mentioned this in a previous State of the Stake episode, where there are a set of questions that we kind of ask ourselves as a community in terms of what's healthy and what's not healthy in relation to the beacon chain. And one of those questions is it open source? And the reason that's important is because it allows the facilitation of these other tools to grow and help mature and push forward the overall ecosystem. If Rocket Pool wasn't open source, we wouldn't have necessarily this product in the shape that it is now, because we'd have to do everything from scratch. So these things allow other people to sort of take the baton and run with it. So something to kind of keep in mind as you maybe looking for solutions to solicit in the ecosystem. One of those questions is to ask is it open source? It's a big driver.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. And so I look at Stakehouse, the one-click installer, is standing on the shoulders of giants. I mean, it's really a very thin layer of code on top of all of the infrastructure of the actual nodes and clients that are running, and then the Rocket Pool install infrastructure. And now we just basically put a little UI on it and automated a few things. So it's all only possible because all these tools are open source. So a big appreciation to Rocket Pool for all the work that they've done and the fact that it's open source. Stakehouse is also open source, so I encourage you to even build on top of that someday. That would be pretty cool.
And not just Rocket Pool. I don't want to forget Joe. JCRTP has just,
yes,
he has been a real motivator for all of us. He has helped me recognize our potential, and so I'm very appreciative of that.
Seeing all 4 clients being picked by Stakehouse as a result of JCRTP's pull request, adding Nimbus and Teku, it never stops making me happy. Teku got selected now. It wouldn't have been possible without JCRTP.
Absolutely.
So I think that just about wraps up this demo. So I'll pass it back to Invetica.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for showcasing this. This is I can't help but smile every time I see it work, because it's just so cool. The amount of just the simplicity of it is awesome. But not to be outdone here, Remy's got his validator wizard here, and it is equally as cool and definitely as important to the ecosystem. Remy, if you want to showcase your tool here.
Sure. Thanks for giving me the talk here. I'm gonna share my screen right now. There you go. All right, so I'm gonna showcase the Validator Wizard, which is just another tool, another one-click installer that you could use eventually to become a validator. We will be sharing the link to the GitHub repository for the project, but one way to quickly start the wizard is simply to go down here, and we have a simple command line that you can just copy and paste, which I'll do here. I'm just copying this command line here, just pasting here, and then it'll download the wizard, and it'll ask you for your password to get started. And so once you start the validator wizard, you will be shown this nice welcome page where it'll explain what it is and where you can get additional support. Right, we're still part of the ETHStaker community, and so like if you need additional support, if you have any issue with the wizard, you can always refer to people who are gonna help you there. All right, so let's start with the next dialogue here. We're showing an overview of what you will need to get started to become a validator. You'll need 32 ETH for each validator you want to run. You also need like a Net1 client and a Net2 beacon node. You'll need to generate your validator keys. You'll need to import those keys, and then you'll be able to do the deposit afterward. And then eventually you'll have to wait, and then you'll become an active validator. The next dialog here will prompt you to select a network. So you can become a validator for a different network. If you want to become a validator for mainnet, which is where the real value is, you'll be able to select it here. But I'm going to select Paramount here just for this showcase. I don't want to use any real value. I just want to demonstrate the use of this wizard. The next step is the ETH1 client installation. Here we're going to install Geth. This wizard only supports Geth right now, but eventually we might be able to add supports for additional ETH1 client. Right, so it'll tell you what it's going to do. It's going to install Geth from the PPA on Ubuntu. So I haven't mentioned this yet, but the wizard only works on Ubuntu for now, but maybe eventually if we have enough people who wants to contribute or help us develop this tool, maybe we'll be able to support additional operating systems. And so it'll create a systemd service similar to what you can find into Summer's Guide. So let's keep going here. So you can see in the background what it does. It's simply running similar commands that you would see in Summer's Guide, but in this case, it's all automated, right? So all you have to do is look at the log and then wait for it. And so you can see that it's downloading Geth 1.10 right now. And once it's installed and the service is started, it'll show the logs, wait a little until synchronization starts, and it'll test that your node is actually synchronizing, right? So after a few seconds, you'll see a pop-up or a small message showing that you are in sync, you are currently syncing, or that you are not in sync and you should wait a little more to get started, right? So here, I'm saying that Geth has not started syncing yet, so let me just retry this. So my Geth node is still looking for peers, so maybe I'll wait a few seconds before I keep going here. I have not opened any ports to get incoming peers, so maybe this will take a little longer. But what we want to eventually include in this wizard is for you to set up your ports first and test your ports and test to make sure that your ports are open, right? So in order to promote better peering and to improve your ability to sync with others, you should open your ports on your machine, and we can actually test for that. And Colfax already built a tool that we will be using for this wizard eventually. All right, let me retry here. Let's see if I'm getting synced. There you go. You can see that Geth is currently syncing properly, and we have a small information message. So the next step here, we are prompting the user to add ETH1 fallback nodes, right? So it's a good practice to include fallback nodes for any ETH2 validator for their beacon node, because if your local node goes down, if your local get node goes down, it can fall back on any other public node. And that's actually pretty useful if you want to do maintenance or if you need to restart your Geth node. It's pretty useful, right? So what I did is I already created an account on Infura. This is just a test account, so this public endpoint is not going to be working after this workshop, but I'm just going to copy and paste my endpoint here that I created using Infura. But we suggest that you create at least one account with Infura and Alchemy so that you can get at least 2 fallbacks for your node here. So let me add this endpoint here. I'm just gonna paste the link I just copied, and make sure not to reuse this link because it's not gonna be working after this workshop. All right, so when I add this new fallback, the wizard actually tests that the fallback is working, that it's a proper ETH1 public node, and that it's on the right chain, right? So it tested that it was on the Garley chain. And so once I'm done adding fallback, I can just select done here. And then now I'm being prompted for the Lighthouse installation. Like right now, the wizard only supports Lighthouse. But like I said, with the ETH1 client, we have a goal to support multiple clients for the ETH2 node. But this is simply just to have a minimally working wizard. Right, so this dialog explains that it'll download the official binary from GitHub, verify its PGP signature, and extract it, create the systemd service, just like what you can find into the summer's guide. So let's get started. We'll see the log in the background about using the GPG tool to verify the signature, downloading the Lighthouse client and installing the systemd service. Sometimes it can take a while for the GPG signatures to be downloaded, but here you can see that it worked fine. And just like when we installed Geth, we're giving the beacon node a few seconds to get started and start syncing. Once we're done with the sync process here, we'll actually test that the beacon node is syncing properly. If it's not, it'll show a message and we'll be able to retry the test here. So you can see a bunch of like failure message in the background. Those are mainly because our local node is not in sync yet. So it's actually falling back on the, and you can see the message here about the beacon node syncing properly. We're now up to the step where we'll be generating the keys. So what it's being shown here is that the deposit CI tool will be downloaded. It'll be executed locally, and you have to answer a few questions regarding your validator. It also has a message about you having to securely and privately store your mnemonic. So that's the words that you'll see. So it's just a reminder about that as well. And we have another dialogue about this warning, making sure that if you lose if you lose your mnemonic, you might lose your fonts. All right, so let's get started with downloading the CLI tool. And we're being asked a few questions. I'm just gonna say that I'll run this for one validator. I'll type a password for the key store. I'll just retype it. And here I'm shown the mnemonic that I have to securely store somewhere. In my case, I'm just gonna copy and paste it, but like in a real world scenario, you'll want to actually write it down and then store it in multiple places, maybe in a safe somewhere if you have one, which is fire protected. So those are all good practices. I'm just gonna retype it here by just pasting it, and then it'll generate the keys in the background. So we'll just have to wait a few seconds. Once we're done with generating the key, it'll import them into the validator client by installing the client as well. So this will just create the service for your validator and import the keys that we just generated. So I have to retype the password that I used when I generated my keys here. It'll check that the keys were properly imported. It'll say that we found one key imported, and it'll give the validator client a few seconds just to make sure that it's working properly while showing your the logs here. So you can see a few error messages in the background because the beacon node is not in sync yet. And one thing I've been thinking about recently is adding a net to beacon node fallback for the validator client using maybe Infura or other services online. So that could be another good things to add to this wizard. All right, so we're now done to the deposit. And so it tells you where you can find your deposit file. And it also tells you where you should be doing your deposit. In this case, since we're using the Permont network, we're being asked to go to this URL here which is open. And I'm just going to do the deposit quickly. But in a real world scenario, you'll want to read all the questions and read all the warnings and risk that you incur by being a validator. But I'm just going to go quickly here to do the deposit. I just want to show you the end. The end results. You're being asked to choose a net1 client, but the wizard already installed one for you, so you can just keep click continue here. Same with your eth2 client. In my case, I created one validator, so I'm just going to type 1 here. And I'm being asked to select the deposit file, which is in the temp directory. So let me just find it here. And I'll do the deposit using MetaMask. Hopefully this should work. In my previous try, I've had issues with this step for some reason. And hopefully you won't have any issue with the launchpad, but maybe I'll just restart it here. Let me just go quickly through those steps again. Like I said, you should be very careful when you're doing your actual deposit to make sure you read everything here, because there's a lot of important messages in there that you should be very careful about. All right. Let's see if it works now. There you go. All right, so now I'm being asked to select an account with MetaMask. I have this account which I requested girl eth on, which should be fine. And then it found some goeth currency, so I should be good with doing the deposit. I'm still being asked about a few of the risk. And I'm down to the deposit step here. So I just click on send deposit, and hopefully I'll be able to do it with MetaMask here. There you go. So the transaction was started. We'll just wait a few seconds for the deposit to be completed. Normally on the Girly network, it's pretty fast, but if you're doing this on the mainnet, make sure that you select the proper amount for your gas price, because I've just had a person today asking why his deposit was not working, and he might have selected like a low gas price, making his transaction take longer than expected. Let me just click on this beacon chain link to make sure if beacon chain found my validator deposit. Seems like the deposit was not found on beacon chain yet. I'll just refresh this. There you go. You can see that the deposit was found on the beacon chain. And so if I go back to the wizard here, when I click I'm done, it'll check on beacon chain to make sure that the deposit was actually done. It'll test it. It'll find that the deposit was done, and it'll show you that the installation was completed, right? So it also gives you additional pointers for support, or if you need, if you have any questions, and where to monitor your activation period for your validator. You can go on this URL here. And that's pretty much it. When you click on quit, it'll show you the public key for your validator here and give you additional information about your validator. So that's pretty much it for the wizard here. So that's the whole process. So you can see where we're going with this validator wizard.
It's so great. Yeah, it just definitely simplifies the process, especially for those that don't necessarily want to run all the commands or are worried about making a mistake. I think the two of my favorite features on this is one that it reminds me, I have a lot of nostalgia watching this wizard because it reminds me of like Windows 3.1. Kind of has like same design aspects, which I love.
Same vibe, right?
Yeah. But it also, I really love the feature where it's further promoting decentralization by default spinning up the ETH1 node. But then I love that you're adding the fallback. So it's not reliant solely on a third-party service. It's just using them as a safeguard. And I think that's a great way to go about it.
Yep.
Very good. All right, so I think what I'll do real quick before we move forward, I know I'm sure there's been a lot of people anxiously waiting for it. We have a POAP distribution for today's event. And what I will do is just share my screen on how to go ahead and claim that. Let's see here if I can get this right for the stream. So if we go,
shout out that so we've done two sections. We've done updating and we've done Steakhouse clients or installation, single-click installer clients. And now we're going to do POAP distribution, and then the final section of today will be a demo of the Rocket Pool Smart Node installer. I'm one of those people, like I have to know where we are because I get antsy if I don't know. But now you know.
Thank you, Superfizz. So for today's POAP claim, if we go to ETHStaker.cc, under the ETHStaker initiatives, if you hover over that, there is a Validator Workshop section. Go ahead and click on that. This is going to be the formal landing page and home for all things Validator Workshop. It just provides an archive of all previous workshops, along with all of the guides and steps that we've been referring to pretty much all day. So we have the video tutorials for each client, along with the respective text guides that Somer ESET has provided. For the POAP claim, there's a fillable form at the bottom of that link. Go ahead and submit your Ethereum wallet address specific to where you want the POAP sent to. And then what we need to do is verify that you are in fact real and that you're not farming for POAPs. So go ahead and put the number of clients that the Oneclick Steakhouse installer supports, and then the name of Colfax's project. So in this case, it's going to be Steakhouse is the code word. So Steakhouse and the number of clients that the Oneclick installer supports. And once all valid submissions, we will airdrop the event POAP within 24 hours of all the submissions. So again, you'll find that at the ETHStaker.cc website under Initiatives and Validator Workshop.
Cool, and I just want to jump in quickly, unrelated to POAP. Somebody made a great comment in the YouTube comments about learning what you're doing. And so like learning about Ethereum 2 and like what you're really getting your hands into if you're going to be running a validator. And yeah, so the Oneclick installer is great. You click a button, you deposit your ETH, whoop-de-dee. But like really understanding what you're participating in, I think is also very important. And so the objective of the tool is to lower the technical bar, but you should really still have a strong understanding of Ethereum 2 and what you're getting yourself into. And I want to quickly shout out what this person posted in the comment. The Ethereum Study Master program is an incredible program run by Invetica.eth as a part of ETHStaker as well. And it is a great way to learn more about what the greater Ethereum 2 Ethereum is and sort of how all the pieces fit together. So I definitely recommend that, even if you're non-technical, especially if you're just interested in learning more about Ethereum, check out the Ethereum Study Master program, because that'll teach you a lot about how all these pieces fit together.
Absolutely. That's a great call out. And for those that do visit the website, ethereumstudymaster.com, currently the only course available right now is Serenity 2.0 or Ethereum 2.0 Serenity course that does sort of a deeper dive into the technicals of the protocol. Soon, though, we will be releasing a like soup to nuts course on exactly spinning up a validator, taking everything that we've sort of discussed in all of the validator workshops, but go very in depth in terms of choosing the right hardware, what components you would need and why they're important, and all the way down the line to spinning up a fully functional validator on mainnet. So be on the lookout for that as well. All right, so we've got our sort of finale here. So just to kind of summarize and reinforce that we're giving you the full spectrum of being a solo staker. So all of the guides and those that want to get their hands dirty, we've given you the resources on the Validator Workshop site. You can also find those guides at somereset.medium.com. And those are for people that want to step-by-step run their own commands. We've showcased Remy Roy's and Colfax's tools that help consolidate and make simpler that process, so those that are not looking to spend all their time in the command line. And now what we're going to do is showcase a staking pool service solution, I guess is one way to look at it. We're going to showcase Rocket Pool. And I think I'm actually going to lean a little bit on Superfizz for this. If you want to sort of introduce Rocket Pool and why we're excited about it, and maybe why that contrasts with other pools in terms of the health of the network.
Sure, thanks. So if you follow the ETHStaker YouTube channel, you'll see that I do this State of the Stake video. It is I was going to say it's a terrible production. My work is terrible. Michael actually does the post-production, and he cleans me up a little bit. But that's sort of where I talk about the ethos of the ETHStaker community, like who we are, why we're doing this, why does any of it matter? Why don't we just all stake at an exchange and forget about this? So if you have any interest in the big picture, why this matters, why ETHStaker is a thing, please check out my State of the Stake playlist. To make a very brief summary, there are a lot of pools, but I have not been able to vouch for any of those pools. Rocket Pool is a kind of a different sheep than all of the other things happening right now. Rocket Pool is open source. That means you can go to GitHub and view their source code. They are trustless because they operate on smart contracts that mean that the Rocket Pool operators never have access to your funds even for 1 second. And they are decentralized in a way that means that operators run all over the world all the time. So we look forward to independent node operators on every continent running independent validators. So when you think of a pool, I think of a company running validators in a data center, or maybe you think about people running a bunch of nodes in AWS. Rocket Pool turns that on its head. It puts validators in the hands of individuals in their homes, in their offices, in their neighborhood. And it really democratizes Ethereum staking. Whether or not it's a community good is up for debate, and I'm still working to understand some of that myself. But I definitely believe that Rocket Pool gives more back to Ethereum than it takes away. And that is, right now, it's the only pool that I'm willing to say, wait for it, try it. With all of that said, we're looking for a Rocket Pool launch sometime in April. There is a risk inherent with Rocket Pool, and that it is smart contract based. For anyone who's been around a while, you know that smart contracts may be vulnerable. And so it's important for you to be careful before putting a lot of money on the line with Rocket Pool until their contract has been live on mainnet for long enough that you can say, nobody's hacked it yet. Maybe it's going to be okay. That might be a week, a month, a year. You have to decide that for yourself. One of the things I know from having done this a long time is that the longer a contract is on the network without being exploited is an indication that it may not be exploited in the future. So something that's been out a week is a high risk. Something that's been out a year is a relatively low risk. Just some things I want to keep in mind for Rocket Pool. If you're wondering why I don't talk about all of the pools, it's because they do not come close to the standard of open source, decentralized, and trustless. When other pools come close to that standard, I am very excited to talk about them until I'm blue in the face.
Just a shameless plug for those that want to know more about staking pool solutions and want to know even what exists out there. The ETHC, or the Ethereum Due Diligence Committee, meets every Wednesday. We record those meetings and we put them on the ETHStaker website. The website for ETHC is ETHDDC.org. The mission for that committee is to help consumers navigate these staking pool solutions that are out there and fitting with the guidelines that Superfizz had already mentioned. Is it decentralized? Is it trustless? And we dive into each respective staking pool and just asking very simple questions on how they operate, who owns them, what are their tokenomics, etc. So if you're looking for information like that, I definitely welcome you to visit ethddc.org. Okay, so moving on here, let's go ahead and I'll share my screen. We'll just literally go through the documentation that is on Rocket Pool's site. So let's go ahead, just make some adjustments here. Whoops, 1 second. There we go. Okay. So what we're doing here, for those that have watched the client installation tutorials that I just posted on the ETHStaker YouTube page, this is going to be a similar workflow here, where we've got a new terminal set up, the instructions for Rocket Pool's beta, which I will link to in the description of this video. I'll also link to this in the Validator Workshop page on the ETHStaker website. So let's go ahead and start. What we're going to do here is just run their installation command here. I'm just going to literally copy and paste. That's all we're doing here. That's funny. I'm just going to install curl quick. Okay, I'm going to hit the up key, up arrow twice to just recover the previous command. We'll go ahead and run that. See that we're downloading. All right, that is completed. So we'll move on to the next command here. We're going to install. Clear my screen here. Copy and pasting. What did I do? Oh yeah, I know what I did.
I think Rocket Pool got installed in your home directory /bin. So if you do cd bin, yeah.
Yep, good call. I did that
There
last
you go.
time too.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Kofax.
No problem.
So the problem there, what happened there is, in order to run the install command, I just need to be in the correct directory that Rocket Pool was installed. So that was the little hiccup there for those watching on the live stream. So we can see that we are looking at the Rocket Pool directory. So I'll go ahead and run Rocket Pool service install. All right, and it's going to start up a wizard, much like the Oneclick installers that were showcased today. basically going to pull down all of the dependencies and everything else that Rocket Pool needs to run. It's going to effectively set up your ETH1, ETH2 node. Now, while we're waiting for this to sort of install, I'll pose this to the group. If I am interested in that, this is the direction. If we're showcasing this, and maybe people that are already familiar with Rocket Pool, they're like, this is for me. This is my comfort level. I trust Rocket Pool, and this is what I'm going to use to run my my node. How does this contrast in terms of overall maintenance? So if I'm a solo staker and I've set up from scratch, I need to know just enough to know that I have to manually update my operating system. I need to manually update the ETH1, ETH2 nodes. How does that compare to future updates using Rocket Pool? All right, moving on to the next one. Let's go ahead and run the configuration command. Again, just using what's in the documentation here. It's going to ask us what type of ETH1 node we want to choose. For this demonstration, we're going to promote the best thing for decentralization. So we're going to run a local geth ETH1 node. So we'll choose 1. It's going to ask us for ETHStats.net. This isn't going to apply. It goes outside of the scope of this demonstration, so we're just going to leave that blank. Same here. Now it's going to ask us if we want to trust Rocket Pool to randomly select one of the 4 clients. Let's go ahead and say yes for this one. And then the graffiti tag. So this is just an arbitrary string of text that is attached to any and all blocks that are proposed by your validator. Whoops. Helps if you are less than 16 characters. So we'll just type in Unvetica. Now we can run the service. So we'll just do Rocket Pool service start. Oh, right. This is, I believe. So what I have to do here is restart my session. This is...
I've got a hack that you can do if you want to not have to do that.
Okay.
If you run SG space Docker and then space and then quote and then run Rocket Pool server start within there. Oh, but yeah, there you go. Then you should be able to run. But yeah, as it says in the guide, you're going to have to log out and log back in to get the permissions to work properly.
And this is because the Rocket Pool leverages Docker containers to keep these things sort of in their own container, I guess.
And the permissions are set up such that only certain users or certain like sort of permission boundaries within the operating system can actually interact with the containers.
So we can kind of see looking at the logs. So what's happening is it looks like in our case, we were randomly selected Prism for the validator or for the ETH2 client. So it's downloading that and configuring everything. And now if we go Rocket Pool service version. Why?
I think you're going to have to do that. Remy, if he does su-user, that should work, right?
Yeah, try it.
Like literal user or like my
dollar user in all caps. That should also refresh the permissions permanently, and then you can just do the regular Rocket Pool command.
Okay. Let's go ahead and clear my screen, and then I will rerun that command, which apparently I can't. Okay.
You need to go back into the bin directory.
Thank you.
Is it K2 back to, yeah.
There we go. So we can see that we've got our ETH1 and ETH2 clients all set up here. So now what we can do is, if we go Rocket Pool service logs ETH1, we can actually see our ETH1 node. Looks like we're still looking for some additional peers. But I mean, just stepping, we're not completely done necessarily in relation to, there are some additional steps in this tutorial on if you're going to run a Rocket Pool node. You'll have to register your node with the service. But the takeaway here right now, as we're looking at it, your ETH1, ETH2 nodes are up and running. They're syncing and doing their thing. Like there's nothing else for you to do. This is much simpler and much more condensed steps in relation to if you were building from scratch using guides. It may take you some time. This is done. We're effectively up and running, which is pretty incredible. And this is, these are again, to kind of come full circle, why Rocket Pool is so neat, because it is open source. These core technologies are what the Oneclick installers were sort of built upon. Fizz, what do you think? Is there value in going through the rest of the steps, registering the node, or do we just want to show off kind of the core technology?
I think right now the point is to demonstrate that Rocket Pool is very easy to install. It is far less complicated to manage than a native client, which is really counterintuitive because you think with a native client it's the simplest thing, but Rocket Pool abstracts away a lot of the complexity into a few commands. And so when I was initially hesitant about working with Rocket Pool, one of the first things that got me hooked was realizing how wildly simple it is to run their client. And I spend hours a day talking to people about how to manage their clients. And then Rocket Pool comes along and it's like Rocket Pool mini pool status. Like it's just so easy. I cannot say it is the right solution for everyone. I think the backbone of Ethereum staking needs to be solo staking. I do believe that there is great potential for people to participate with Rocket Pool. What I'm really looking forward, though, is for other providers who will take this model and say, aha, they're doing something we should do. We should use open source software. We should make our product trustless, and we should further decentralize and democratize Ethereum staking. So that is my message. It's not that Rocket Pool is the greatest thing. It is that Rocket Pool is hitting a lot of goals that I would love for other providers to strive for.
Absolutely. Any other final notes by any of the crew here before we close up? Awesome. I want to first and foremost thank everyone that's on the Zoom call for joining and showcasing the tools. Remy and Kofax, I can't thank you enough for the work that you both have done in contributing. These are great leaps within the ecosystem. I think the help that you provided people is yet to be seen. I think you're going to be thanked in many different ways for the work that both of you have done. So thank you again. And we'll definitely be showcasing updates as they come, either through State of the Stake or through the ETHStaker Discord. I also want to thank Somer for providing all of the guides and all the hard work that he provides updating and maintaining those guides. They're not just some static things that are tossed up there. That's also incredibly helpful to the rest of us. And so just to summarize real quick, the point of this workshop was to give you a full spectrum. So we went through and posted the guides for those that want to do a from scratch validator that can be found on the website, ethstaker.cc. We've shown tools for solo stakers that want an easier experience but are still motivated to spin up their own node. And then we briefly showcased Rocket Pool, which is a staking pool service for those that want the simplest form of solo staking. And that being said, if you ever need help at all, that's what we here as the community are for. You can find us at invite.gg/ETHStaker. No question too small, no question too silly. None of us are experts. We're all learning together. There's no ego. So any and all people are welcome for sure. That's it from me. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to doing this again next month, and we'll see everyone there.
See you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Hey.
Thank you so much, Michael, for doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yes, well done.
Bye, everyone.
All right, our stream